everybody. In this video, I'll be showing you how to find the starting amount in a compound interest situation. So take a deep breath and let's make this math easy. Okay, so if we want to have $25,000 saved by the end of 5 years, the question asks, how much should we invest now at 4% APR, which stands for annual percentage rate, where it's compounded monthly? So as we read through this problem, let's identify what information we were given. We first of all know that we want to have $25,000 saved by the end of 5 years. So this amount that they gave us is the ending amount, which in our formula is represented with the variable A. So I'm going to say A equals 25,000, and we want to have that amount saved by the end of 5 years, so T equals 5, and the interest rate is 4%, so R equals 0.04. And then because it's compounded monthly, that tells me that K is going to equal 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So this is all the information I was given, and the question asked, how much should we invest right now? Which is the letter P, because P is the beginning amount of your investment. So to calculate this, let's just substitute the values we know into the formula. So we would write 25,000 equals P times 1 plus R, which is 0.04 divided by 12, raised to an exponent of 5 times 12. So to simplify this equation, I need to make sure that I follow order of operations. So order of operations says that I simplify the stuff inside of parentheses first. So I'm going to do 0.04 divided by 12, and that gives me this decimal 0.0033333333. And I want to make sure I keep at least 6 decimal places, but if you keep more, then your answer will be even more accurate because you won't have any rounding errors, or you'll have less rounding errors. So I'm just going to keep this number in my calculator, and I'm going to know that's what 0.04 divided by 12 equals. And then I'm going to add 1 to it. So I'll add 1 in my calculator, and this number is the number that's inside of the parentheses. Then I need to raise that to an exponent of 5 times 12. Well, I know that 5 times 12 is 60, so I can click my exponent button and raise this number to the 60th power. And this number is the number that's being multiplied by P. So I'm going to write that down, and I have 25,000 equals 1.220996, and then all of the other decimals are there as well, but I'm just going to round it for writing it down. And that's multiplied by P. So if I want to find out what P is, or the initial amount I need to invest, then I need to divide both sides by this decimal. So you could just type it into your calculator and write out 25,000 divided by this decimal. Or most calculators, especially scientific calculators, will have a button that looks like this. And this button does 1 divided by whatever number you have in your calculator currently. So if I click this button right now, this decimal is 1 divided by the decimal that I used to have. And if I multiply this by 25,000, so I'll multiply by 25,000, that number is the same as if I had done 25,000 divided by the 1.20996. And it's more precise because I didn't have a rounding error. And so that tells me that P equals 20,475 and 7 cents. So at this point, it's okay to round it to 2 decimal places because this is my final answer, which is measured in dollars. And it doesn't really make any sense to have a really long decimal in a dollar amount since dollars can just be split up into cents. So this would be the amount that we would need to invest now in order to have $25,000 saved by the end of 5 years. And that seems reasonable because this number is a little bit smaller than this one. And it makes sense that with a 4% interest rate over 5 years, that this amount could grow to $25,000. So why don't you guys try this one on your own? Pause the video and restart it to see how I solved it. Okay, so in this one, we want to have $90,000 saved in 10 years. So $90,000 is going to be our final amount, or A, and then 10 is going to be T, or the number of years. And the question says, how much should we invest now at 3.6 APR, so R equals 0.036. And because we're compounding it daily, that means that we're going to have K equal 365. Now, when you guys take your quiz, there's this thing called the Banker's Rule. And if they ask you to use the Banker's Rule, that means that you're going to have 360 be the number of days in a year. Because a lot of times bankers will just approximate it to 360 because it makes the calculations easier. But that will be in the instructions if you're asked to do that. So we're given all of this information, and the thing we want to find is how much we need to invest now. So that's P. And to solve this, we'll just plug everything into the equation and solve the equation. So we'll have 90,000 equals P times 1 plus 0.036 divided by 365. And that number is going to be raised to the 365 times 10. Or technically, the way the formula was written, you do 10 times 365, but it will give you the same number either way. So to simplify this, I need to simplify inside of the parentheses first. So I'm going to simplify the division and then the addition because, again, order of operations. So I'm going to do 0.036 and divide that by 365. That gives me this decimal, and when it says e to the negative 5, that basically means that the decimal needs to be moved over to the left 5 decimal places. So this decimal is actually 0.0000986.3, etc. But your calculator will often display it like this. And so that's the daily interest rate, which it makes sense that it's a really small decimal because it's a daily interest rate. Then we'll add 1 to this, which gives us this decimal here. And this is the stuff that's inside of the parentheses. And I need to raise this to an exponent of 3,650 because 365 times 10 equals 3,650. So I'll click my exponent button and raise this to 3,650. And that gives me this decimal here. So I have 90,000 equals P times 1.433339. And make sure you always keep at least 6 decimal places so that you don't get significant rounding errors. So my last step is to find out what P is by dividing both sides by this decimal. And you can use the reciprocal button, which will figure out what 1 divided by the decimal is, and then multiply that by 90,000. And that's the same thing as dividing 90,000 by the decimal. And so what that tells us is that the amount we should invest right now is $62,791.98. And it's okay to round it to just 2 decimal places here because this is my final answer. And so that's how you would solve that problem.